So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to keep your iPhone battery capacity high. Now, I've had this iPhone 12 Pro Max since it launched, and you can see my battery health is still at 100%. So that's the point of this one. We're going to show you how to keep this as high as possible so you're not worried about your battery getting too low or starting to drain too much versus when it was new. And stick around to the end because I'm going to answer some bonus questions that are often asked but are actually not true about the iPhone's battery life. Okay, so tip number one is to avoid completely draining the battery. Now, I'm at 47, so after this video, it's going right on the charge because I don't want it to get too low, because when you let it drain way down, it kind of can deplete the cells over time in the lithium ion technology. So definitely I would recommend not draining this thing way down and then charging it way up, because you're basically cycling the battery every time, and then you are going to start losing some capacity in the battery settings where it shows you your iPhone battery capacity. So that's tip number one. Don't let it drain too far down on a day-to-day basis. So tip number two is to be aware of the heat of your iPhone. It doesn't matter which model it is. If it's getting really warm, that's a sign that things are going on. You're going to potentially permanently damage the battery. So also avoid keeping this in the sun. Like if it's on your car dash and the sun's beaming 100 degrees right on your phone, it's going to overheat the phone and it could potentially damage the battery. So try to keep this thing in some room temperatures and don't let it get too hot. Or if you find yourself using an application or something and the phone is getting way too hot, give it a break or find out if that app is not optimized correctly before you continue using it, because you don't want this phone to get way too hot. It could permanently start damaging the battery. Now, I don't find this to be a big issue on most of the later iPhone 12s, but some of the older iPhones, as we update the newer softwares, they start to overheat quite a bit. So be careful with that. So the next one is always keep the optimized battery charging on. To reduce battery aging, iPhone learns from your daily charging routine, so it can wait to finish charging past 80% until you need to use it. You'd be a fool to keep this off or to turn this off. It only helps your battery. So I don't know why you would have this off. So make sure this is always on. It's been on since day one, since I had the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So our next tip lives within accessibility, and it's one you probably already have on, and it's to leave the auto brightness on here. Now, I had it off because I wanted to turn it on for the video, but if you are constantly using the brightness at full brightness because you don't like auto brightness, you're going to deplete the battery a little bit quicker. This uses a lot of power to put this thing at its full brightness, and considering some of these newer iPhones get extremely bright, it's even using more power. So I would consider leaving auto brightness on if I was you. I'm gonna turn it off for this video because I want to make sure the lighting is correct and you can see this phone good. But once this video ends, I'm gonna put the auto brightness right back on. So make sure that auto brightness is on if you want to potentially extend the length of your battery capacity on your iPhone. Okay, so for this next tip, we want to personally calibrate the battery every once in a while. Now, not to confuse an earlier tip where I said don't drain it all the way down. In this time, you can do it once in a while to personally calibrate the battery. I mean, don't drain it every day all the way down when I was saying the tip earlier. But what you want to do is every time you have a major software update, or every few months or a couple months, you can go ahead and drain it all the way down to 0 and then charge it all the way back to 100 and leave it on the charger about an hour or so past when it hits 100%. And then you should have been able to recalibrate the battery. Sometimes these readings can be off even because you just need a battery calibration. That's what was offered in one of the later 14 versions for the iPhone 11 series. So definitely want to do that once in a while, but don't make it a habit to do this regularly, or again, like I said earlier, you'll be draining it too much and depleting cells. So only do this once in a while. Personally recalibrate your battery. So number 6 is to avoid beta updates. Now, I have iOS 15 over here on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which I covered in my beta 1 review the other day, but I don't recommend you download these if you care a lot about your battery. These early buggy releases are not properly optimized for the hardware just yet, and they put more stress on the CPU. They make the phone get a little bit warmer over heavier usage when you're using it all day, and they could potentially cost you a couple percentages in the battery capacity. Be aware, if you're going to be downloading these early developmental betas, you're going to potentially hurt your battery life, especially if it's on your main phone. So do it on a side phone if you want to do some beta downloads. And keep in mind, when I talk about these betas, I'm talking about the very early ones. As we get closer to the release candidates, the ones that are getting closer to the launching for you, then it might be okay. It shouldn't hurt your battery too much. And next up is to use Apple certified chargers and cables. Always do this, because if you're going to be using third-party chargers, they might not work amazingly well. Now, some of them will. Some of them are very good, like brands like Anker, for example. Not sponsored. I'm just saying this is a brand I've used and it's been fine. I'm just saying, listen, if you're going to be using some of these brands that are cheap brands, are not really made for the iPhone correctly, you could potentially damage your battery. And this is especially true when it comes to some wireless chargers. Number 8 is to keep your apps updated here. So just make sure that you're constantly, at least once a week. I know you're a busy person, but at least once a week, end of the week, go through your iPhone and just go to the App Store and make sure everything is up to date. This reduces the chances of having buggy applications overheating your iPhone, causing performance issues, as well as potentially draining that capacity on your battery. And that brings me on to the next one. And this one comes directly from Apple themselves about the temperature range you want to be in. It's between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is according to Apple. I'll leave a link down below. This is where you want to keep the iPhone stored for best potential longevity of your battery capacity. And finally, update to the latest official softwares. I'm not talking about betas. I'm talking about when official softwares do arrive for your device. This is 14.6, 14.7, iOS 15, not 14.7 beta 2, beta 3, not iOS 15 developer beta 2, beta 3. This is the actual official versions that comes to everybody. The public releases, go ahead and do these. They will keep your phone optimized, smooth, and running very good, which should in fact help you get better battery capacity because everything is running and humming along just smooth. And finally, I want to address those questions that are kind of common people ask and think that happen to their iPhone. Will overcharging or charging your phone overnight cause battery degradation or to really reduce your capacity? And the answer is no. Reason why is a lithium-ion battery technology within these iPhones does have a cutoff point. This cutoff point will ensure that the battery does not overcharge. So this is a myth you should definitely not worry about. You could charge it overnight, and the optimized battery charging helps even more as it learns your patterns. The next common thing that people think happens is when you have multiple applications open, will closing these apps really save the battery? And the answer to that is no as well. Apple kind of pauses those applications in the background, doesn't really take a hit on battery. Remember, this video is about saving the battery capacity, not about how to get better battery life. I do have a video on how to get better battery life. I'll leave that linked right up here and down below in the description. But if you found this video helpful, entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click that like button for me. And if you want to see more like this, make sure to comment what you want to see down below. I hope these tips help you to get better battery capacity and longevity out of the cell that comes installed on your iPhone. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the next episode, and peace.